October 1943, the legendary U.S. submarine, the USS Wahoo, vanished without a trace in the Sea of Japan. On board were 79 souls, including its celebrated commander, Dudley "Mush" Morton. For Vice Admiral Charles Lockwood, the commander of the Pacific Submarine Fleet, this was more than a strategic loss. It was personal. The Sea of Japan, a vital artery for the Japanese war machine, was nicknamed the Emperor's Bathtub, a seemingly impenetrable fortress protected by thousands of deadly sea mines. Any attempt to enter was considered a suicide mission. But Lockwood was a man who believed in two things: his submariners and revenge. The loss of the Wahoo ignited a burning desire to crack the Sea of Japan wide open, no matter the cost. A plan began to form, a mission so audacious, so dangerous, that it would change the very nature of submarine warfare. This is the story of Operation Barney, a tale of vengeance, innovation, and incredible courage. The key to unlocking the Sea of Japan wasn't brute force, but technology. Deep in a lab at the University of California, scientists were working on something revolutionary: frequency-modulated sonar, or FM sonar. In theory, this device could paint a detailed picture of the water ahead, allowing submarines to detect the thin mooring cables of mines. But "in theory" was the operative phrase. Early versions were notoriously unreliable. Submariners who tested it gave it a grim nickname, Hell's Bells, because of the constant, nerve-wracking cacophony of pings and false readings it produced. Reports flooded Lockwood's desk, all saying the same thing: the technology wasn't ready. It was too glitchy, too untrustworthy. Sending men into a minefield with this system was tantamount to murder. But Lockwood saw something others didn't. He saw a glimmer of hope, a chance to turn the tables. He made a high-stakes gamble, choosing to trust the potential of the technology over the warnings of his own men. He selected 9 of his best submarines: the USS Sea Dog, Crippled, Spadefish, Tunny, Skate, Bonefish, Flying Fish, Bowfin, and Tenosa. These crews, soon to be known as the Hellcats, were pulled from the front lines. They had no idea what was coming. For 3 intense months, they were drilled relentlessly in top-secret training exercises. They were ordered to master the maddening Hell's Bells, learning to distinguish the faint, ghostly echo of a mine cable from the countless other noises of the deep. The mission was so secret that even the submarine commanders were kept in the dark about their ultimate destination until the very last moment. The architect of the mission was Commander William Barney Seagliff, a brilliant and daring strategist. The plan he conceived was as simple as it was terrifying. It was codenamed Operation Barney. The 9 Hellcats would punch through the Tsushima Strait, the most heavily mined body of water on the planet. Once inside the Emperor's bathtub, they would have 15 days to hunt, to create absolute chaos, and to sever Japan's last remaining supply lines. After their rampage, they wouldn't go back the way they came. Instead, they would have to escape through the treacherous La Perouse Strait in the north, the very same strait where the USS Wahoo had met its doom. It was a mission that left no room for error. Every single moment would be a dance with death. On May 27, 1945, the 9 Hellcats slipped out of Guam. Their official orders were a lie, a smokescreen to maintain secrecy. Only after they were well at sea did the commanders unseal their true mission briefs. The reality of what they were about to do began to sink in. On the evening of June 4th, they arrived at the entrance to the Tsushima Strait. Under the cloak of darkness, one by one, the submarines submerged and began their passage into hell. The tension inside each boat was suffocating. The sonar operators were glued to their screens, their ears ringing with the constant pinging of the Hell's Bells. The system was immediately proving its unreliable reputation. False alarms were constant. The sonar would scream a warning. The submarine would execute a gut-wrenching emergency dive or turn, only to find nothing there. The psychological toll was immense. Then came the true moments of terror. The sonar would fail to detect a mine cable directly in their path. The first sign of danger would be a horrifying sound, a metallic screech, a deep groan as a thick steel cable from a mine scraped along the submarine's hull. In those seconds, which stretched into an eternity, the entire crew would hold their breath. A single snag, one wrong move, and the mine would be pulled down onto the hull, detonating and obliterating the submarine and everyone inside. On the USS Skate, a mine cable got caught on the conning tower. The captain had to perform a series of violent, desperate maneuvers, shaking the submarine like a dog with a toy to break free. It was a near-death experience repeated across the fleet. Yet, despite the malfunctioning gear and the heart-stopping close calls, they pressed on. Their training, their skill, and a healthy dose of luck saw them through. By June 6, the impossible had happened. All 9 Hellcats had successfully navigated the minefields. They were inside the Sea of Japan, and the Japanese Navy had absolutely no idea they were there. The hunt was about to begin. For the next 2 weeks, the 9 Hellcats unleashed a coordinated storm of destruction. Spreading out across the Sea of Japan, they became wolves among a flock of unsuspecting sheep. This was Japan's last safe shipping lane, the final route for bringing resources from the Asian mainland to the home islands. The Japanese, believing the sea to be secure, were sailing with their lights on, not even bothering to zigzag. The Hellcats couldn't believe their luck. From June 9th to June 20th, the results were staggering. Torpedoes streaked through the water, finding their marks with devastating accuracy. Ship after ship, freighters, transports, tankers erupted in flames and plunged beneath the waves. In total, the Hellcats sank 28 Japanese vessels, amounting to nearly 55,000 tons of vital shipping. They even sank a Soviet freighter by mistake in the confusion. They had effectively severed Japan's last economic lifeline. The impact was immediate and catastrophic, not just physically, but psychologically. For the Japanese high command, it was inconceivable. Submarines simply could not be in the Sea of Japan. Their initial reports were dismissed as panic or hysteria. But as ships continued to disappear, the terrifying truth dawned on them. Panic gripped the Japanese maritime forces. The Imperial Navy issued a stunning order. All shipping in the Sea of Japan was to cease immediately. Every port was to be closed. The Emperor's bathtub had become a death trap. This decision paralyzed Japan's wartime economy overnight. Factories lost their raw materials, and food supplies dwindled. The psychological blow was even deeper. It bred dissent and insubordination among Japanese naval crews, who refused to sail into what they now knew was a submarine-infested sea. The Hellcats had done more than sink ships. They had broken the enemy's will to fight on the waves. But this stunning victory was not without a terrible price. On June 19th, as the operation was winding down, tragedy struck. The USS Bonefish, commanded by Lawrence Edge, was patrolling in Toyama Bay. It had already sunk 2 ships and was lining up for another attack when it was spotted. Japanese escort ships descended on its position and unleashed a relentless barrage of depth charges. The crew of the nearby USS Tunney reported hearing a series of deep underwater explosions, followed by a huge plume of oil and debris rising to the surface. Then, silence. The USS Bonefish and its 85 crew members were gone, lost to the depths. It was a grim and sobering reminder of the razor-thin line between victory and disaster in submarine warfare. For the remaining 8 Hellcats, the grief was profound, but there was no time to mourn. They still had to escape. Their exit route was the La Perouse Strait, a narrow, fog-shrouded channel between the islands of Hokkaido and Sakhalin. This was the same treacherous passage where the USS Wahoo had been lost 2 years prior. The Japanese knew this was a likely escape route and had reinforced their defenses. For the Hellcats, a slow submerged passage was too risky. The currents were strong, and the Japanese anti-submarine patrols were on high alert. Commander Seagliff made another bold decision. They would escape on the surface, at high speed, under the cover of night. On the night of June 24th, the 8 remaining submarines gathered for their final desperate dash. It was a mad gamble. Running on the surface made them faster, but also exposed them to radar and visual detection from shore batteries and patrol boats. Engines roaring, they raced through the strait as one. They were spotted. Searchlights stabbed through the darkness, and shore batteries opened fire, their shells splashing into the water around the fleeing submarines. But the Hellcats' speed was their salvation. They outran the guns, weaving through the fog and darkness, and pushed out into the open waters of the Okhotsk Sea. By June 25th, it was over. All 8 submarines had successfully cleared the strait and were on their way back to friendly waters. Operation Barney was complete. The mission was an unqualified success. It had proven that with the right technology and training, even the most heavily defended waters could be breached. The Hell's Bells sonar, for all its flaws, had worked just well enough to get them through. More importantly, the operation had a devastating impact on Japan's ability to continue the war. By shutting down the Sea of Japan, the Hellcats accelerated the collapse of the Japanese war economy, arguably shortening the war and saving countless lives on both sides. And for Admiral Lockwood, it was justice. Vengeance for the USS Wahoo and her crew had been served. The silent hunters of the deep had sailed into the heart of the empire, struck a crippling blow, and returned as heroes, forever changing the face of naval warfare. Thank you so much for watching. The story of the Hellcats is a powerful testament to the bravery and ingenuity of the submariners of World War II. If you found this story as incredible as I did, please hit that like button and consider subscribing for more tales of history and courage. Let me know in the comments what you think about this audacious mission. We'll see you in the next video.